Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Across from me is...
David Hanon.
So, I don't know if you remember how we know each other, but you subbed at ACM for Michael Trepanier for a little bit.
Yeah. We had those miniature little synth things, right? Was that part of... I subbed for him a number of times.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, and then I remember I used to work with Daniel. And I had no idea you guys were related. And then I think years after we had worked together, he just like was biking by, and he was like, "Hey, I didn't know you guys knew each other." I was like, "Wait, I didn't know you guys knew each other." So, yeah,
it's a small world.
Yeah, ACM. How I'm connected to, I feel like most of the people that I know is somehow through ACM.
Yeah. So I remember, Trepanier was going on tour, and you were just like sucked in to like, oh, I guess I have to like teach today, which is like, you didn't do a bad job, but it is definitely like a scary thing to like, oh crap, I have to like be responsible for like 20 people for a week. Like, this is crazy. But no, I mean, you did great. And who are you? What do you do?
I'm Dave. Currently, I work for a software company that is based out of Edmond called BIS. We have a product called Grouper that essentially is just a business automation tool, to put it as simple as possible.
Not a fish.
Not a fish. Prior to that, I was a restaurant manager for a few years. And prior to that, I was an audio engineer and then a teacher of audio engineering and other related things at ACM. And then prior to that, I was in college at the University of Oklahoma getting an English degree, literary and cultural studies. I was there for a very long time because it took me a very long time to decide what to major in. Because I'm very curious. I am fascinated by almost anything, unless it's like statistically or super numerical. But even then, there's exceptions. So
yes, but you're in a band also.
I play music. That's usually I guess when people say what do you do, I think of how do I make money, because that's how the world works. I play music in my own band called Gonzo LeBronzo. It's my dear friends Grant Marshall, who plays drums, and Sean Stafford plays bass. And then I'm also playing with them and Shirley Sanders in Neon Cathedral.
Cool.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah, just as of recently, we Grant and I are playing bass and drums.
Cool. Yeah. So tell me about, first of all, I guess let's go all the way back. Where did you grow up, and how did you get started in music?
Sure. I grew up in a suburb of Seattle, Washington called Federal Way. It was, a couple of different, small neighborhoods. My favorite house that I ever, lived in, of the various places we lived growing up, was kind of right by a trailhead that, you could walk a couple of miles through a state park to, a sort of beach and see, the Puget Sound. And so it was, cool to be, from a young age, I was I liked being outdoors, and I liked being in, this peaceful, wooded area, I think I was always kind of, always kind of had my head in the clouds. I think, my mother's very sweet. She's not always she's funny, but not in the most like, hilarious way or like biting way. But she's not a big zinger. But one time she was like, "Yeah, this is my only son David and his little brother Devin." And I felt like that was,
Whoa.
I feel like that was pretty accurate. I was always kind of just in my own little world. I started playing Nintendo when I was about 5, and then my parents were like, "Listen, you're doing too much of this. You either need to, you got to do something. You can play soccer." I had friends my age that were playing soccer, and this was maybe second grade or so, and they're like, "Or you could play piano. You could take piano lessons." I was like, "Soccer seems like a lot of work. I don't want to do that." So I took piano lessons for a few years.
Little did you know, piano is so much more work.
Yeah, I loved to kind of sit down and just experiment, and that's I still that is my downfall. I think I spent so much time just playing random stuff on the guitar,
Mm-hmm.
but that is really like my version of we'll get into the spiritual talk later, right? So anyways, I took piano lessons for a few years, and while I loved it to start, by the end of it, it was it didn't work for a number of like family dynamic reasons, and I just wasn't happening, and I think even my teacher was like, do I need to talk to your parents? And like, you don't seem like you even want to be here, I was like, yeah, probably. And for a long time, that was just kind of it, and I kind of remember getting exposed to, I didn't have a lot of music around me. My parents listened to kind of what I would say is pretty dorky stuff, but also didn't really want me to be listening to a lot. They were kind of strict about what I was allowed to listen to. So I kind of I got into I built a PC with my uncle. I was about 15. In that same year, my granddad gave me a guitar. So I guess somewhere there's a lot of story in here. Let me back up. We moved from the Seattle area, to Grand Rapids, Michigan, when I'm 15 years old. My dad takes a job with his brother, who's the uncle I was telling you about earlier, as the filmmaker. I wound up working with him for several years. And while we're in Grand Rapids, it's my sophomore year of high school. I am from Seattle, and this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Yeah, you're from Seattle? Do you like Nirvana?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Do you want to be in our Nirvana cover band? We need a bass player." I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't have any friends. I couldn't drive yet. I spent the whole summer vacation just like alone doing nothing. So I was like, cool, this is something. And so I started playing bass, and I played a lot. I kind of stopped playing video games, and then I got a hold of a guitar, and I played a lot. I didn't, at this point, I just moved across the country. I didn't have any friends. And that was how music entered my life. The same year that computers entered my life, and I very quickly was trying to record onto this old ass Windows machine, and but that I just never stopped. And there were even periods of my life where I was like, I had to put this away. This is like, I keep spending money on it, and all this time and energy, and it's frustrating. I can't seem to ever like finish anything, which is still, partially true. But I just can't, I never feel right without it. So I've at this point surrendered to it. It's like, all right, I guess I'm a musician, despite, my self-sabotage efforts. So yeah, that's kind of
what brought you to Oklahoma? How'd you get here?
So the same uncle, who's, he's a filmmaker, he wound up, his name is Jim Hanon. He is, currently recovering from COVID, and he was hit very hard. He is, I'm getting updates today that he is in physical therapy, basically relearning how to swallow. He hasn't eaten solid food since something like January 15th. Just he was essentially a medically induced coma. It was just, it's we're very happy that he's alive. Yes. And so it's been anyways. So this uncle, he was in advertising in Chicago when I was a young child, and was very successful and directed commercials. He's a film director of commercials for McDonald's. There's this commercial that I saw where it's they first started serving breakfast, and it's the Egg McMuffin. And it's this guy with a big McDonald's bag walking onto a construction site. And, he's got a hard hat on, and there's, this skyscraper that they're building. And, he's throwing all these Egg McMuffins right and left, and people are catching them. And then this guy way up top goes, "Hey, Hanon." And he looks up, he's like, "Oh," and he like throws him. And it's like, breakfast, blah, 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 or whatever the tagline was. He snuck the last name into this commercial. And, so at some point he was, that level of success in the early 90s, but had, some sort of, I want to say, faith-based shift away from advertising, right? And I don't know the whole background of that, but at some point my dad goes to work for him, and my uncle had started his own sort of film production and sort of nonprofit sort of advertising, but they worked for shelters and sort of different faith-based sort of projects, right? And that was, I wound up as a teenager working for these companies and learning Photoshop and web design and, get video editing and then audio editing. And, that was really I spent so much time just learning software, which is still kind of what I do professionally. But it was always, right. I always wanted to make music, and I always felt like it was right there. And, wound up moving to Oklahoma when my Uncle Jim, his work catches the eye of Mark Green, who was, one of the guys, very high ups for Hobby Lobby and that whole, group of businesses.
My wife works for Hobby Lobby corporate. So
yeah. And so, they had sort of a shared vision for a faith-based, media production sort of company, right? And so, he said, "Yeah, I want to do that, but I'm, a package deal with my two brothers," because they were, the three of them, my dad, also David and Jim and Miles, had traveled the world, several times over, making various documentaries and, cool film projects and stuff. And so, like, all right, so all of us came out to Oklahoma, and now all of them had left except me. I kind of, I sort of went to college here, spent my senior year of high school here. So I kind of, the friend family that, I really, that was the first time I kind of had a chance to be friends with somebody for more than a couple of years in a row. They're, all around Oklahoma, or we're based somewhere in Oklahoma. My family has moved back to Seattle, and then as of a couple of years ago, now back to Oklahoma because it's expensive out there.
Yeah. So it's expensive most anywhere anyways. So
yeah. It feels like it's only getting more expensive.
Yeah. So, I mean, film, music, audio has always been in your life. What was the point where, or was there even a point that you were like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing?
I have never once in my life felt like I knew what I was doing. I will say that right out of the gate. And I kind of have gotten used to, I think where I feel like I get the best work done is where I can create a space where I can basically just make an ass of myself without really feeling a certain way, plus or minus, about it, right? Where it's like, if I can just, if I'm trying to record something, where it's like, if I can just sit in a room and play it 100 times, I'll get it eventually. The perfect take is there. I just have to be patient, and that's kind of, kind of been how I figure things out. I'm really curious, and I really like to just learn how stuff works just by nature, but I get, it's like I would love, my dream in terms of making music would be to like, I can just like sit, I just want to do it fast. I just want to like, I just make a thing and write some lyrics and make it go and just be done with it and not have to deal with gear. And, you know, at some point in my, I think 20s, I became sort of anti-gear. I had spent so much of my early guitar playing life just agonizing over, you know, getting stuff. And at some point I was like, this just doesn't jive with, you know, I want to have, you know, the guitar that sounds good or whatever. I want, you know, to make a recording that competes or doesn't sound like trash next to, you know, other stuff. But I didn't want to spend a lot of money doing it. And I kind of like the forced ingenuity of keeping it small, you know? And so, you know, right now we are have I think finished the lyrics for the last song on a full length record. And we've booked a day to mix with Michael Trepanier. So, you know, we have, that day is the 11th. And so, we've got a few days to track vocals and, but you know, it's just been just one stumbling block after another. I think we started, in the early days of COVID with some drum tracks at Trev's place. And, you know, it's been, you know, changes in jobs and changes, you know, moving into new places and getting COVID and getting, you know, just one thing after another. And it's like, we're just, at some point I was like, I don't care how long it takes. So we're just doing this. At some point, I don't really want it to be a product. I just want it to be a thing that I do. And, you know, if it can somehow turn into a way that I can make money in the future, great. But, you know, this has been, I just want to be done with it,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Describe to me the Gonzo LeBronzo sound.
So, I mean, I think for a long time, it was kind of like, didn't feel like we had a sound, but over the course of making this record, at least the songs that are on this record, I would say it is kind of a channeling of anxiety. So it is all, there's a lot of like, you know, I think one of the main influences when Grant and I sought to start a band was Death from Above, 1979, which now I feel like maybe a little cringe, but they just like, it was high BPM, just riffs. It was like fun, head nodding, kind of just upbeat, like heavy, but not quite metal. I don't know.
Sure.
And so that was kind of, you know, the initial mission statement of the band was like, it's fun music that rips, you know. But ultimately it's, you know, it's like, well, what does that mean? You know, I think it turns into a lot of maximalist guitar. You know, I think I've played in a few bands, you know, like I said, or maybe mentioned earlier, like I did at one point sort of given up. I was like, I got to quit this. It's like, it's juvenile, you know, like, you know, I just have to, you know, there's just this voice in the back of my head that was like, you know, why are you still doing this? You're how old now? But I played, you know, one of my dearest friends, John Salome, you know, he was living in a quadplex with him, and he was like, hey, I want to start a band. We need somebody to play bass. And I was like, okay. And that kind of, you know, I'd sort of been tinkering around on a bass after taking a hiatus, my only, you know, since I was 15, maybe is like 6-month hiatus from guitar. And I was like, yeah, I can't give up on this. This is the best I felt, you know. You know, not to be too dark, but there's times where it's like the music is what has made my life at least endurable. You know, there's times where it's like it's not that it's my life is awful or anything. I don't mean to say that I'm like horribly depressed, but I'm just like, there's just times where nothing is that exciting to me, and I can pick up a guitar and then it'll be, you know, I play 3 chords and I just feel saved. I'm like, I've never had a book or a video game or anything else. So I can't help but feel like that's what life is for me. Is, there's nothing else does that to me but this stupid fucking guitar. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear here. But it is frustrating. I wish it was something else. I wish I could be, it's hard to see or even make a way to contribute or feel like you're contributing value with something like, a guitar. But I do feel like the spiritual value it provides a person to pursue any art form. I think I feel incredibly blessed that I ever was afforded a guitar and B, the time to do anything with it, because that is the highlights of my life really have been this musical thing. And I even feel like we haven't even really released a record. We have like some songs we threw together to apply to Norman Music Fest the year before it, got canceled. So these days I just forget about it. If I hear back, I'm like, I can't even tell you. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go back through my bank records and see how many concert tickets did I buy in the last 2 years that I didn't go to the concert or the concert didn't happen and I still spent the money or didn't get a refund. I just don't want to think about it. Yeah. And so I've just stopped buying tickets for things. I'm like, no, I'll show up the day of, and if it's not sold out, then I'll be there. Yeah. if I go out at all.
Who are your biggest musical influences?
Even though I always know that question is coming, it's really hard for me to not break it into different instruments. So I think maybe it's easier to go timeline wise. The first CD I ever owned was Boys to Men 2. I have always had a thing for vocal harmony and for, I feel like when I was in my early stages of, learning music that wasn't, the sort of Christian contemporary or the early 90s radio country or Foreigner that my parents were listening to, which there's some good stuff in there. But it was not, very little of that made it into my influences, I would say. So it was there were 2 radio stations in Seattle at the time, and it was 107.7 The End, which was the alternative rock sort of station, and then Cube 93.3, which was the hip hop R&B, and I would say at night they had the hip house. I was very into the house music at the time when I was really young. Dance music was totally foreign to me. And really there's that kind of came back when I was in college where it's oh yeah, this, and even now when I'm at work, there's a lot of trance music that I'll just put on. I just need to not hear the coworkers around me. So I guess that was really only one. There was, Seattle at the time. There's no way I could separate myself from all of the big grunge acts because that was just what was around. I feel like most of that didn't really age well in my esteem, but some of it did. And I like to think that one of my core beliefs is there's nothing that's 100% good and nothing that's 100% bad. So if there's art in front of you, you find something good and something bad, so Boys to Men, second album I had, I think was a Mariah Carey record. But then started getting into had a Nirvana CD that parents found and were you can't have this. This guy's on drugs or whatever. And so then it was Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and the other sort of 90s bands at the time. But nowadays I don't know. It's hard to say even what I listen to. It's I feel like music has become more. I go to different genres for different things. It's more. I know just enough about the different genres to go where I feel. And so I go back to hard bop jazz over and over. And I always thought jazz was the stupidest music. But in terms of when I hear an instrument that like makes me feel like I'm about to cry, it's usually a jazz record. And it's rarely, you know, the type of music that I'm like, that I think I would ever make or that I'm like really interested in. Sure. It's like this stuff that I just put on where I'm like, I want something on that's nice while I, you know, do the dishes. And then I'm like, what, wait, who is this? This is like, you know, gorgeous. And then, you know, who else influence wise? I don't know. There's a lot of like recently Nick Drake, Pink Moon. I've been listening to that. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of put down playing through an amp and a pick, even though the songs that I write are very much like the opposite of that. But I think part of that was, you know, yeah, I had to learn. I feel like there's this weird thing with playing music where you have to, and maybe with life in general, where it's like, if you want it to be loud, you have to master being quiet. There's something about, like, you can't just, you don't get better at being loud by just being loud all the time. And not that my goal was being loud, but like a lot of these songs are trying to convey, you know, these, sort of negative feelings I couldn't put anywhere else or didn't feel like there was an outlet for. And maybe not always negative, but a lot of it is inspired by, you know, the anxiety I feel from, you know, just the world at large these days. Right. Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? Influences. Yeah, I'm still dodging. I don't know. There's, let me think. I really like Unknown Mortal Orchestra. I think is one of my favorite bands that's, you know, right now. The OCs, I think, is fantastic. Ty Segall was just here, and I missed that. I think Crumb is fantastic. Hiatus Coyote. There's a lot of Black Odyssey is one as R&B record that came out that I just absolutely love out of Austin. I don't know. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to not just like listen to the stuff that is like what you make.
Yeah, I've always struggled. I never felt like I was part of a group. You know, I was always hesitant to be like, yeah, I like punk music. There's a lot of punk music that I like. Television is one of my favorite bands. People say that's punk. But, you know, people say that Green Day is punk and that, you know, Dead Kennedys is punk. I'm just afraid to like self-apply most labels. You know, I feel like there's great danger to identifying as a particular thing without having really thought it through, you know?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
What's something about you people don't normally know?
I guess I was adopted. I was adopted at birth. Which may or may not play into, you know, the way I perceive the world in some like deep psychological sense. But, you know, I was, adopted and, you know, just raised having known that. So a lot of times, you know, because it was never like a big impactful, you know, like, you know, I found out when I was 18 or something. It never seemed like that big of a deal, you know. So that's kind of also that I'm the fifth in the line of Davids. So a lot of people don't know that.
Cool. Lastly, on this front, what advice do you have for people that are wanting to get into music?
I think the best advice I can really offer is just listen. Listen before talking. I think that's also maybe life advice and advice for myself, you know. But I think that there are periods in my life where my relationship with music was lesser than other periods. And those are usually when I wind up listening to, you know, the same records over and over, or, you know, just wind up not wanting to be open to new music. But I mean, I can't tell you how universally it has been true in my life when I feel bad, if I just like ask somebody, just like, hey, just like, I need something. What are you like really into? What's your favorite stuff? And like 9 times out of 10, I will find something, in at least a few tries that I'm like, oh yeah, how could I have these thoughts that like everything's been done? It's like, it's silly. Like the world is so infinite, and it's so that's again, I don't remember what the question was.
Listening. Yeah.
Oh yeah, advice for don't idolize gear. I think you have to really follow your heart. You have to really follow your ear. You have to I think know what it is you're after, and just, I don't know, I'm a big believer in just practice. Just if you think, I've always been surprised that, I never really played guitar and sang at the same time until being in this band. And so I could kind of sing and I could play guitar, but like I had very little experience, doing both at the same time. But I think that like, if you can hear it in your head and you're patient and you are willing to, you make an ass of yourself enough times, I think you can do just about anything. Anything you hear, you can make. That I've been surprised how that has been true in my life, where it's like, oh, here's this idea, and I'm like, if I can just capture it, usually I can pull it off. Capturing it is a whole mystery. Don't start me there, but so yeah, I guess if that's advice, just go for what you hear, and I think everything else will kind of fall into place.
Cool. Switching gears into the deep questions that make bit depth. What is the role of spirituality or religion in your life?
Yeah. So I was raised Catholic.
Same.
And went to Catholic schools from first grade until went to 3 different Catholic high schools, and I feel like that kind of prevented it did a couple of things. I'm really glad, and it took me, I think, a while to be able to say this, but it gave me a moral and ethical framework with which to view the world. I think it's important that, especially when I think we just learn so much better when we're young, that I think it's important that you're around something like that. But I think it's also important, and by something like that, I mean a structure of morality, right? Mm. But I also think it's important that you are given a space to question it. And I think that was kind of my experience in these Catholic schools, where they seemed more structures of authority than machines of faith building, right? And so I felt like by the time I was in high school, especially, I was like, I didn't know anybody that was like, in the the chapel when we had to be there, that was like taking this shit serious. It was like everybody was joking around, and there was maybe a few, but that was never the experience. It was never the main experience I took away from that. And I think that was just in response of like, no, this is just a thing that you're supposed to believe. Yeah. We're not going to tell you why. And that just never sat right with me. I think that again, like I'm hesitant to self-apply any sort of label, but like, I think the way my brain works, it is very hard for me to endorse or engage in an activity unless I feel like I have understood it all the way and endorse all of those steps, right? Sure. So sorry again.
This is the journey of spirituality.
So all that to say, I think it's I was grateful to be in a structure where you are exposed to a religion that gives you some sort of framework. It wasn't until I had to, just because of the nature of how life plays out, I don't think I could appreciate that structure until I left it. Right. And so my story there was really, I was at Bishop McGinnis. I had taken these courses that we, were required to take, these religious, religion classes, right? Mm-hmm. And one of them was world religions, but we were being taught by a Carmelite sister, which is some sort of nun-like official.
A level 12 paladin.
But dressed like a nun, but in a brown suit habit, I guess. Horrifically mean. I just my least favorite teacher that I can remember, right? I just remember her speaking disparagingly of the Sikhs or the Jains, as we're reading, about, isn't it ridiculous that they sweep, bugs out of the way so they don't step on them because they think that is sacred. And this kid that I wound up becoming friends with, he stood up and he's like, I don't think it's right that you say that. And I was like, I just feel it. I was like, if he's doing, if somebody else has done this, I can't not. So I was like, if he's leaving, I'm leaving, Cool. So I became friends with that dude. And then immediately was like, I need to read about all of the other religions. Yeah. They're trying to disparage this stuff. This class about these other religions felt like they're trying to keep you from learning more about it. Yeah. And at some point, I'd bought these books. I specifically remember there was a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. And I don't remember what the book on Zen Buddhism was, because there's, as far as I understand it, not a central text per se. And this was something as cheesy as Buddhism for dummies, but, sure. Me 15, 16, literally taking these texts with a highlighter and going through this copy of, the Bible that I had and sort of comparing this stuff and being like, man, the important stuff is overlapping, in my esteem at the time, right? I was like this, really what I don't get why they would be, this disparaging, and that's, and that was really opening my eyes to now seeing these other approaches, and eventually, specifically Buddhist and Taoist sort of philosophy and thought have been, I think, very useful in my life. But at some point, my mother had found these books, and it was, and this was, and I, it's not to talk ill of her, but she was kind of enforcing this, Catholic, this Catholic structure for the rest of the family, right? And what I think was a conversation that she probably didn't, it wasn't super significant for her, but for me took it as, this sort of end of the world. But it was something along the lines of, if you believe this stuff, this is a cult, or if you believe this stuff, you're going to hell. And, I think she was just taking this stuff away, and you can't have this stuff. And that was just kind of how the words came out. And I took this as wow, she thinks how could she think this of her own son, and and very dramatic. And I don't think it was, and I've reconciled with her, decades later, just what, that was a thing? No, I never would have, Sure. And so I love both my parents very much, and don't want to give that impression, but but that really was the start in my life of looking into other religions, and then by the time I get to college, this I wind up having no idea what I'm going to do with my life. I know that I like music, but I also know that I my dad wanted me to be an engineer. So I kind of had all of these, I had ideas of maybe writing. I just had no idea. And I just was so interested in so many things. And to be not at home was I was just a puppy. I was not ready to be out on my own, and I could not handle it. And so, when it came to drugs, or it came to alcohol, or it came to girls, or it came, I just was not ready to be an adult, and so, my whole, not the whole college experience, but I, really look back on this sort of period of my life as learning a lot, and the stuff that I was learning, I think, was really great. But I was still such a dumbass to be like, yeah, I'm like learning all this wisdom, and I'm like, reading about these other cultures and stuff. But I was still like, I was living off of these student loans. I was not working my way through college. I was, I had a pretty, easy time. I was, my family was never, I would say, wealthy by any means. That they always had to work, but I was never, I had video games and a bicycle, and I was never without stuff growing up, right? And as an adult, I've been, tried to not rely on them in any sort of way, right? To be like, no, I can just be, but I think that's a silly idea, and that nobody should have to do that. But so all that to say, now, as somebody that's nearing adulthood, but maybe, the role of religion and spirituality in my life kind of bring me back on course. I wind up leaving Catholicism behind and thinking that, like, I'm an atheist or whatever, but eventually really getting a lot out of Buddhism and Taoism, and then eventually getting this gig that kind of was the turning point that got me away from ACM, and then into kind of hard times, and then into restaurants, and starts sort of the next chapter, right? So I get this project that is essentially a film version of the Four Gospels, right? It is about 13 hours of film content. They actually did a beautiful job, like footage wise, I guess, or like, I don't know, visually it looked, there were a couple of like miracle CGI things that were, whatever. But they tried to, find, people that were indigenous to the area, and tried to have them, speak the language as they thought it would have been spoken in the time, and all this stuff. And then the whole point was they were just going to overdub literally the Four Gospels, but then change that overdub out for every possible language and every possible version of the Bible, right? So there's a lot of versions. Mm-hmm. And so I'm on this project, and just kind of like, this is just sort of like an audio editing thing. So as part of that, like, you hear every line, dozens of times, right?
I edit podcasts, I know.
Yeah. So like, here I am, these gospels that I thought I was done with, and they're right in front of me. And as I'm going over them, this time, now later in my life, with this sort of Buddhist perspective that was, what I had been reading sort of in parallel. It's like, I don't see a meaningful enough difference, I don't, and I think that's kind of where I fall on most religions is, I don't think, I think there might be stuff in like the texts, there might be stuff in the structures of power or influence that are trying to divide people from other people. But I don't think any of the people that we study is somehow spiritually advanced, whatever you might call that. I don't think they're ever talking about, well, no, I'm a this and you're that, I think they were talking about, where does the rubber meet the road? Like how do you behave? Yeah. And so that's why I say I've fallen into the trap so many times where it's like, I want to say that I'm a this, or I want to say I'm a that. Saying it isn't being it, and sure. And don't say it, and let somebody else call you it, whatever it is. And so I've always kind of felt that way. I've never been like, yeah, I'm a musician. I'm like, I'll wait until I do this or that. And now it's like, okay, I've played shows, I've been in bands, I've spent enough money to be able to call myself a musician. But anything else, I'm like, I don't, whether it's a political label or I don't know, I'm just very slow to adopt anything,
Sure.
Just because I think it's a slippery slope. And I don't know, people really want to believe that something is all good or all bad. And I don't think things work that way. I think you always have to be vigilant, and you always have to, stay true to what is right in the moment. I don't. So ultimately, kind of wraps this whole spirituality thing up, I guess. I don't think I'm any one thing, but I don't think I'm a non-believer. I don't think that there is a way to conceive of whatever may be a higher power or may not be in a way that's even meaningful to really talk about it, right? Yeah. I think that that's what kind of makes it beautiful, is it's there to interpret. Everybody gets to have their own sort of personal connection, I guess, right? So I don't think that it's just like I don't know how to put it. I think that it's like I'm equal parts like true believer, deep faith, like whatever this is, it has me in its arms, and it is good, while being like the universe is cold and uncaring, and the world does not give a absolute care about you or your life, or you are just, every moment is a blessing. You are on a cold rock in the middle of a vacuum, and this is all just, we're like a fungus growing on this spinning rock or whatever. I feel like I'm just constantly both, and I can't. If I'm just the one, I get depressed and it's awful, and if I'm just the other, it doesn't feel real. I am too much of a skeptic to just be all into to give somebody the reins to my moral compass, I guess. Sure. Right. I have to build it all bit by bit, and I'm not just going to sign up for some program. Or
Yeah. I'm glad that you meander a lot, because it actually like checks off a bunch of the questions that I have. So
yeah, like I said, corral me.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the point is to explore, not to just get definitive answers, because that's
yeah. If you're looking for answers, you definitely don't have the right guy.
What do you think happens when we die?
God, I am, it's hard for me to say. I have been very blessed to only rarely in my lifetime been directly touched by, death or the danger thereof. Right. If I had to sort of fashion a guess as to what the experience of dying is like, I imagine it's something like, have you ever done like a certain yoga pose or something, and there's like, you didn't know you could be tight there until it lets go. I imagine it's like that for just like the deepest core of you. It's just like all of a sudden you relax and you're just like, oh, I don't even have to care about this. Like this is like, because I do kind of feel like I am at my best when I am not, I'm not trying. I'm not trying to, I'm just automatic. I'm this muscle memory. I'm just this conduit. I'm a vessel for something bigger than me, and whether that's music or whether that's collective action, right? I think, being at protest events, or being, times where like outside of the governor's office during this Julius Jones shit show is what I'll call it. I don't know. I can't see it any other way, but using a man's life as a tool in a political plot, as a popularity contest, but being there and just feeling the change when it was announced that, and it's like, it's not even like he's free, right? It's this guy, there's not going to kill him. It's like, but that collective like feeling like, oh, maybe it's not just that like I showed up and like this, I saved the day. Maybe it's that like everybody chipped in just this tiniest little thing, but because everybody chipped in, something happened, right? And I think those moments where you're a conduit, or a vessel, and it's like it's like I feel like I'm getting out of the way. Those are like the best moments in my life. I feel like, right? What was the question?
Death.
Oh yeah. So I think that that usually means a release, a letting go, and a relaxing, right? And I think that that's the ultimate relaxing, right? You no longer have to be attached to whatever this is, this meat suit, and just get to drift off into whatever is or isn't.
Yeah. What are you optimistic about for our future?
The people younger than me, absolutely. And I think I'm trying to be careful about how I'm choosing my words, but I think that is the distinction. It's not necessarily me, but I'm more excited about the younger generations than I'm excited about the generations that are currently in power, right?
Sure.
Because I feel like they just are, I think, just a little more aware, a little earlier. I look back on my growing up, and I think I feel like I was kind of raised in the belly of the beast of settler colonialism, right? As
Sure.
And it wasn't, not to say perfect childhood, but it was, very close to suburban picket fence. Like I said, we never went without. There were stressful times maybe, but on the whole, like A+. Cannot complain. And it took me a while to realize how much I had to unlearn if I wanted to be sort of integrated with what I believe, right? Yeah. If I wanted the stuff I think about myself to be in line with how I actually act in this material world, that means all of these behavioral changes and all of these perspective changes, so I think that's kind of, I think that's the biggest thing for me right now is staying humble and just learning as much as possible without always thinking the answer.
Yeah. Cool. What makes you content?
Playing music, absolutely. Whether that is with other people, whether it's just for fun, or it is a show, or it is rehearsing, or it is recording, just any of it. I think that is my deepest and first love, is just making sound with anything. I can't stop. I'm tapping my fingers all the time. I'm just always lost in some sort of beat or some sort of melody. And if it's not that, I think I just have to be taking in new information all the time, and I think that I used to be a little more proud of that. Now I'm like, you have to be careful with that. I think, we make it so easy to use social media to, I think, just rots your brain, so it's trying to mitigate that and be like, find things you're interested in. And when that interest drives you, then read books on that thing. You don't need to just, scroll constantly. So yeah, reading or learning new things. And then, I'd say quality time with people that I love, with my family and my friends. I think that's, especially the older I get and the harder it is to meet people, it's just like, even if it's like, hey, there's a gang of 5 and we just want to get together for a drink one night. It's like, it's hard to do more than once a year, twice a year, when, people start having kids and families. And so I think that's, and especially after this couple of years where I've had a lot of isolation time. I think just being with loved ones, for sure.
Cool. When will you be satisfied?
Oh, at this point, I don't. I don't think that will happen. I think in certain ways, I say that in jest, but in some ways, I think I just am too curious. I don't. I just there's so much of the world, and I just love all of it. That it's hard to think that it's just going to be exhausted, right? So yeah, when will I be satisfied? I guess in certain areas of my life, I will be satisfied when I think everybody has a equal footing, and everybody has a shot at doing their thing, not just me doing my thing, right? I would like, it's hard for me to imagine a world like that right now, but I think it is important that we try, and I think it is important that we, like I said, any step in the right direction is valuable, Yeah. So I think, when will I be satisfied? I think when we don't have to worry about not only war but exploitation on any level around the entire globe.
What advice do you have for people in general?
Listen first, and then talk. To talk only if you need to. I think that has been very important in my life, and I think I know I've already said it a couple of times, but I don't think anything is entirely good or entirely bad, and so you always have to stay humble and vigilant, and you have to, if you find yourself fancying a certain thing too much, that should trigger like, hey, am I fooling myself here? Am I giving this thing? Am I really examining all sides to this? I think that's kind of that. Not getting hooked into thinking, oh, this is bad and is always bad, or this is good and is always good, I think is like foundational. I think because once you break yourself of that, you realize there's, all these categories, all of these words and labels that we have are really just tools to get things done, right? And they aren't inherent to our reality, right? There is no separation. And I think once you open yourself up to that, and you can kind of free yourself of that just for a little bit, just little glimpses, because it is, hard to do that. I think that's, where you begin to really find the boundaries of yourself, because I think once, it's not until you explore a thing in depth that you really know your opinion of it. And I think, to kind of loop back around to the earlier question, what I admire about the younger generation is I think they didn't buy in as hard as my generation maybe bought into the red-blue game, right? Because we, when you're in your early 20s and Barack Obama comes along, it's easy to think that like, oh, America is cool.
Yeah.
And that even if you had thought like, hey, previous guys, America not so cool, that still was that trap, right? It was, you wanted to identify with it. And there's still, every bit of gross stuff happening behind the scenes. And the blue eras as there are the red eras. So I don't think any one side is better. They're both just playing their role in the downward spiral is what I would think of it as.
Sure.
But I think the younger generations are just hipper to that out of the gate. I think and less despairing because of that. I think for me at least, it was like, man, it does feel like I grew up in this kind of fantasy world, and we're seeing that fantasy fall apart. And part of me is like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it was a fantasy world. That was why I was always looking to these. I always was seeking. I was like, something is missing. But then part of me is like, well, but who cares, man? What you called it? Like, what does that give you some sort of points? So, that's kind of how I feel about it now. The younger generation is at least a little more, has, I think, a more time to enact meaningful change than our generation will, or my generation.
Hell yeah. Lastly, potentially most importantly, cake or pie?
I knew that this one was coming. I mean, I knew the influences one was coming too, but this one I thought more about. I'm not a big like sweets or dessert guy in general, but I think because of my love of crust, I have to side with pie. I know that there are cakes with crusts maybe, but like I feel like crust is integral to pie-ness. And I like a graham cracker crust. There's a lot of type of crusts that I can't say no to. So gotta side with pie.
What is best pie is always the corollary to that.
When I think of best pie, I have to just think of, I like tart stuff. Like I said, I'm not big into just overly sweet stuff. So I would say like a key lime or a lemon meringue, and just, crumbly, graham cracker crust. I'm a simple man. Usually if I'm getting pie, it's, behind a little glass counter at a diner somewhere.
Yeah. Dave, thank you so much for doing this with me. This has been great. Where can people find you and your things?
Yeah, mostly Instagram. You can follow me personally at 5th of Hanon. That's FIFTH _of HANON. Or Gonzo LeBronzo is where we're making music. And recently with Neon Cathedral, which is neon spelled with a 0.
Yeah. Cool stuff going on there. So once again, thank you. I'm Santiago Ramones.
And I'm David Hanon.
Is there a track that can play at the end of this?
We've got on Spotify, what do we have up there? 4 songs. There's one called Sidewinder. I've just used that.
Sweet. There we go. Here's Sidewinder.
We're traveling along, place on the back of the
can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music and produce audio. The music you're hearing now is music I made. You can listen to official releases by Santiago Ramones on Spotify, Apple Music, and the other streaming places. Or you can support me directly by buying my music on Bandcamp. I'm working on Hypothetical, my first singer-songwriter album, so if you'd like to hear that at some point, there are lots of ways to support me on my website. There's a Discord server in which we discuss deep topics from the podcast, but it's also a community of beautiful human beings. All the links to all my things are on my website, santiagoramones.com. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It would mean a lot to me to hear what you have to say, and it lets others know what to expect, better than I could ever explain. I want to help the world have deeper conversations, so thank you for listening to and supporting Bit Depth. I was in the podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life philosophy. Those 3 things are: love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong.